And welcome to SCW for AEW Revolution 2023 match card and predictions. There is quite a lot in store on this show. We've got a three-way, we've got a four-way, we've got no holds barred, we've got a Texas Death match, and we've got a 60-minute Ironman match. So plenty to discuss today, plenty to look forward to. We're going to go through the match card very quickly, then I'll get my special guest on straight after this. So that is the match card there. Plenty to dive into. But of course, as always, I can't do this alone. Without further ado, he's a regular on the channel these days, but he's always got great opinions on things WWE, Impact, AEW, and more. It is the one, the only, Mr. NXSTEVE. How are you doing, sir?
Gassed as usual from your wonderful intro, Steve, as per normal, man. I know, I'm good, man. Very excited.
It's great to have you on board, and what a show to have you involved with as well. AEW Revolution, the first big show of the year for AEW, the longest gap as well between AEW shows from Full Gear to Revolution, a full 4 months to build this. Just quickly before we go to the chat, your excitement levels, how are you feeling going into this show?
50-50, I suppose. I mean, we're going to see some great wrestling, but my God, this is going to be a long show, man. And I don't know. I can't justify staying up to watch these shows. They're just too long. It's going to have to be a case I'm going to have to watch it the next day. I might stay up and watch 1 or 2 hours maybe, but I'm already dreading this being like 5-6 hours long.
I think it's the idea of 60-man Ironman match as the main event. Then there's other matches on the show. But I will give Tony his due. There was not as many matches to predict as normal. Now, yes, there are no buy-in matches at this point, so we won't be discussing that at the time of recording. Should those matches come out for anyone that is watching this on delay, I will do a quick upload of my predictions for those matches. But we're going on the main show only, 8 matches. But yeah, when we said we've got an Ironman match in there, 7 other matches, I imagine we're talking at least 4 hours this show, perhaps even more, depending on how it goes. But one thing we can always be reliant on is we've got a fantastic chat always joining us in-house. C Nation Dog says, how are you doing today? Doing well, thank you. Thank you for checking out the video. Hope you are doing well. Hope you've had a great day. Eric Douglas also in-house as well. Eric, thank you very much for checking out the video. This is how are we as well. We're doing very well, thank you. And our first compliment of the evening, NXSTEVE is an awesome guest from C Nation Dog Day. Gotta love it. Good to see some love from our chat. And do you know what? We've got to send a lot of love to our chat as well. You guys are awesome. So yeah, we said there 50-50 there. To give my level there, I'm quite intrigued with this show. The main feeling for me is that I feel that AEW is going with a little bit of a different feel with it. We usually get all these first time matches. There's a lot of rematches on this show, which is something different from Tony Khan's usual way of booking. We've seen Moxley and Hangman go at it 3 times before. We've seen obviously the stuff with the Guns and the Acclaimed previously. Ricky Starks and Chris Jericho, their feud started with a one-on-one match. It's going to culminate with another one. So there's no strangers to these one-on-one matches and these sort of rivalries being done almost on repeat, if you will. But I'm hoping that we're going to get a lot of conclusions from these matches here. And to be fair, I am filled with a bit of excitement still.
Yeah, I mean, I think their biggest problem is that they don't have enough pay-per-views, so they have to culminate a lot of the stuff into these 4 or 5 shows that they put on a year. So unfortunately, we are lumbered with these super long shows. But to be fair, there aren't as many singles matches as what he has done in the past. Like I remember one of them where there was like 7 or 8 singles matches. At least we got loads of variation in here. We got a trios match. We've got a 4-way tag match that I'm really excited for. So he's getting loads of people on the card, and like I said, they're all different. It's not too much of the same. Like it's not single match after single match after single match. I suppose I have to look at it in positive that way. That I'm excited for it. That the fact that it's like not a lot of it is going to be the same the whole way through the show. Like I'm really excited for the Texas Death match. I'm really excited for the trios tag match. I'm really excited for the 4-way. So there is a lot to look forward to on this show.
There really is. If I had to nail it down to one match, then what match are you most excited for at this moment?
I'm going to go with the trios tag match. I think it's like we know what the Bucks and Omega can do. We know what the House of Black can do. I think they're going to absolutely tear it up. But it's not like it's way out in front of my standout match. Like, I'm expecting the 4-way tag match to be unreal. I'm expecting the Texas death match to be bloody and gory. I'll tell you what, another one that's I think will surprise me as well is going to be that 60-minute Ironman match, because I've got a feeling that's going to be. I reckon you can see something special with that.
I really do as well. That's the match I'm most looking forward to. I think that it's going to be very story driven. We've got the 60-minute wrestler in Bryan Danielson against let's say the guy that's going for the Fink. He works smarter, not harder. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of DQs or a couple of shenanigans from MJF to get the Falls to go ahead or catch up and overtake Bryan Danielson. So I think this could be a really clever Ironman match. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it for me it ticks a lot of the boxes. And what's ticking a lot of the boxes is our chat as well. A lot of excitement and a lot of people here with us. So thank you all for checking out West Coast Podcast in-house. Oh, wow. This pay-per-view, lol. Let's hear it, guys. We can get into it in about a couple of seconds' time as soon as we finish with our chat. KXI in-house saying, what's going on, everyone? What's going on to yourself as well? Thank you for tuning in, as always. We've got a big up from Daz Reynolds. Thank you, Daz, for checking us out. It says, do you think there'll be any matches on the pre-show? Absolutely. I asked Tino on his live stream earlier, and I think he's kind of on the money. He's printed around 3 to 4 matches. I think he is probably right with that. It seems to be the way that they go with it. And I have seen as well, do we think we will see Britt on the poverty? It's a good, very good question on that one. But I mean, for me, I feel Britt Baker will be a part of this show in some format. Obviously, the women's match will be later in the night. I think she could be someone that could be on one of those buy-in matches. I could see her and perhaps Tony Storm, because they'll probably be both around. Pay-per-view, of course, was meant to be there. I think Top Flight versus Aussie Open could be an interesting one. Perhaps they could throw on, because they were sort of doing stuff in the tag team match. Lucha Bros seem to have something going on with, I think it's Josh Woods and Tony Nese on that casino stuff. So I reckon we could get a couple of sort of Joker matches like that. Perhaps that could be added to the pre-show. But that's my feelings early doors. NXT, what do you feel? Do you reckon there could be some pre-matches added?
At this point, the pre-shows are almost like episodes of Dark. Like, you expect them to add 3 or 4 matches in, and to be fair, at least they're more entertaining than the kickoff shows that WWE do, because they just repeat the same stuff for an hour. At least we get some wrestling with AEW, so you have to take the positive from that.
Absolutely. Just to clarify, though, when Eric actually asked the question on the poverty, I was assuming he was talking about the All Access show. That's, of course, debuting in March there. But hey, that's just me. And also, we've got Jade for mid-card titles. Yeah, Jade Cargill could be something that could be added to that show as well. There, she's been squashing people left, right, and centre as of late. So wouldn't be surprised if she was given a match there on the show.
I mean, obviously, with Ring of Honor being on air tonight, do we expect anything from Ring of Honor to possibly be added to the show as well?
There's always a possibility, but I really hope that they start to keep it separate. But then that's just my feeling on that. We hope so, but you never know when it comes to it. But Forbidden Door later in the year, that's when they should do that stuff, in my opinion. If they are doing it with New Japan, Ring of Honor, all that stuff, do the three-way show, then I think it could be a lot of fun. Kangsai says, I haven't watched AEW in like 3 months. I got bored, not going to lie. This card looks underwhelming. I don't know, maybe it's because I haven't watched it a bit, but House of Black versus Elite should be good, though. Now, you mentioned that match. NXT, you said that's the match you're most looking forward to. Funnily enough, it's the match we're kicking off with. It is the AEW World Trios Championships, the Elite versus House of Black. Now, if we're going to be honest here, guys and girls, if you're watching, share your predictions. Let us know who you're going to think is going to win as we go along. Obviously, the more interaction you get, the more people might come and join us as well in the stream. It'd be quite fun to hear everybody's picks. But for me, there has been a lot of build when it comes to this match. Obviously, House of Black have kind of called their shot here. They wanted this. The lights went out on Dynamite this past week. And of course, they attacked the Elite at that point, holding up the championships as well, had a backstage promo as well. Not really a lot gone into this. Obviously, the Elite have mainly had that best of 7 series with Death Triangle on their return to actually make themselves solidified as the trios champions. Very clever, by the way, from Tony Khan, who can say what we want with the booking. How to make everyone forget about Brawl Out and the CM Punk stuff. Everyone wanted them to talk about that when they returned. How to make everyone forget about it. Do a best of 7 series. Everyone's forgotten about it. Now they want to this program with House of Black. No one seems to mention CM Punk and that rivalry anymore. So fair play to them for that. Going into the match, though, itself, I'm going to be brief about it, Steve, before I go to you. I think it's going to be an awesome match. I'm looking forward to the unique clash of styles, but I do think that the champions are going to retain. I'm going for the Elite.
Oh, shocking. I'm going to go House of Black, because I think House of Black needs something desperately. Like, they've just been like I said, the build for this has been so, I feel like it's been non-existent. So again, this might be because, like I said at the start, they don't have enough pay-per-views throughout the year. So, but then I don't know. I was reading stuff today, and Tony Khan was saying like he's booking, he's doing something new. He's booking, and he's looking at what he's going from week to week basis instead of long-term booking by the looks of it, or something he was trying to say. But I reckon this is going to be an absolute killer of a match. We've just watched, say, the best of 7 with Penta and Phoenix Jr. and all that. So this is going to be, I can't wait for this. And I'm just hoping that the House of Black pick up them titles because they need something. They deserve something. I'm just waiting for it, man. They looked awesome holding them titles up last night.
They really did. It actually is a nice looking fit actually for the group. My feeling against it is that the Elite have just basically won those championships. Kenny Omega was away for a couple of weeks as well. There was all the rumors going around about Kenny Omega, his contract being up. Will he go to WWE? That sort of speculation, but that's been squashed in the rumor mill. That may be for originally those championships might change hands. But Kenny, I believe, is going to do the time he was out injured. It's been extended to his contract, so he'll be with AEW, I believe, till the minimum of November. Of course, the Young Bucks have got to the new year, which makes me think when they now come up to renew those contracts, they're now actually going to go around the same time. So it seems more likely one would, or all of them would jump if they were to or not. But that's not now. That's somewhere further down the line. And of course, looking at the here and now, that's what makes me think the Elite will retain.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you can look at it that way, but I think from a pure point of looking at that roster, not many people have been champions outside of the Elite. Like the tag titles, don't get me wrong, have obviously been passed around a lot, but Kenny's been world champion. The Bucks have been tag team champions. Kenny's been tag team champion with Hangman Page. So I just feel we need to start getting these titles onto other people on the show because to me, it feels like they're just constantly gaslighting these three. And like, I know they're EVPs and stuff, but it almost makes me feel like how Vince used to book certain people and just like he always used to book his favorites, and I'm getting that sort of feeling with it. But like I said, it's just I just want to see it on someone else, man. I want to see this go somewhere else. I want to see the Bucks go back to doing tag team wrestling. I want to see Kenny do some more single stuff. We go back for the world title, or even make jump to Ring of Honor and do something over there. I'd like them to see him do something, but just get titles off of them, man. Just to let someone else have a chance.
I mean, it would be nice to see someone else have a chance. I mean, one thing that could be interesting. I mean, if they were to return to the company, I mentioned Board out earlier. Imagine the Elite versus CM Punk and FTR.
Well, yeah, it's a great shout. I just think that you're dousing fire with petrol there, and it's. I don't know. I mean, FTR being left out of the Casino Royale, the tag match on Dynamite, I thought was a bit of a shocker. I was like, is their time done? Who knows? Maybe we'll find out this weekend what that means. But don't get me wrong, that gives me almost Matt Hardy Edge vibes if you're going to book that. Like, remember when Lita obviously done the dirty on Matt with Edge, and they sacked him, fired Matt, brought him back, and then they did the whole thing. It gives me that kind of feeling to it. But I don't know. The thing is with AEW is like they're very good at keeping their back, like the stuff from backstage quiet, and like they only let you know what you really want to know. Like we don't really know much about what happened at this brawl backstage between them all. So it sounds interesting, but I think it'd be a really, really brave risk to do it.
It would be brave if they could get everybody on side, though. It's printing money, so it's an idea that I think would that could main event Double or Nothing, for example. You wouldn't even worry that it's the trios titles over the world title. That match would be the most talked about thing. But just to say, completely separate topic. Jonesy, I spoke to him earlier on. He didn't necessarily specify with this match. He just said he predicted Punk and FTR would actually return on this show. I think FTR may return on this show, but I don't think this will be the place that they'll do it. But we'll discuss that as we go in later on. But for me at the moment, let's go into the chat and see what everyone's got to say. Daz saying that he thinks the Elite to win by DQ. West Coast Podcast, House of Black should win, but I think the Elite will to set up themselves versus FTR and Punk at the next pay-per-view. It looks like we have the same mindset there. Lovely to see it. I like that there. Fantastic. C Nation also says here the Elite are going to retain the AEW Trios Championships because House of Black have had too much momentum on the Go Home show. Usually the person who stands tall on the Go Home show loses at the pay-per-view. Certainly something we used to see in a WWE style. Is it going to be Tony Khan's way, though? We'll have to wait and see. Big shout as well to Tino's time in the house says, what's up, Tino? Of course, it's always Tino's time. It doesn't matter what time of the day it is. Tino's time all the way. He'll be doing a WrestleMania live stream later on for WrestleMania 20. There's a watch-along for anyone who wants to go and check that. I believe that'll be 1 a.m. UK time, so it might be a little bit late for us here, but that means that's 6 p.m. on the Eastern Coast, and, of course, that means Central Time, 7 p.m. Tino says he would love to see House of Black win as well. And we've got a separate question from Eric Douglas here. Says, do you actually believe Eddie Kingston is done in AEW? See the head shake there. NXT, I'm going to let you take it because I've got a funny feeling me and you're going to say the same answer and I'm going to give you the honours.
He's going to show up in Ring of Honor tonight. I think that's the whole point of it. It's just a hype up. Like if you have Ring of Honor air tonight and then Eddie Kingston shows up, Eddie Kingston, I think, is probably going to be one of their guys going forward. And I imagine at some point Eddie Kingston will probably end up winning that ROH World title. But yeah, I think that's all they're going to do is move him to. Why would you broadcast on national TV that you're quitting the company? Why would Tony Khan let him do it? So yeah, he's definitely going to Ring of Honor, I think.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself there. And obviously, you notice the pun was intended there, giving you the honour. It literally was. It was an absolute cert there. But yeah, I mean, obviously, we've seen some there said we'd like to see House of Black win. Others have said the Elite to win. We've gone with our predictions there, but we're going to move on then to our next match in the meantime. And actually, a match I'm really enjoying the storyline too. It is the TNT Championship. Samoa Joe, the man of the television man. He's got 2 championships there with ROH as well, taking on Wardlow. Now, to be fair, they had the most awful tag team name, a WWE style tag team name, with the Ward Joe thing going on, obviously, towards the end of last year. They were both mid-card champions, and then, of course, I think Wardlow had said something like he wants to win all the championships. Samoa Joe kind of took exception to that. That's when the beatdown took place. Those two and Powerhouse Hobbs then took place at Full Gear in a three-way. That's where Samoa Joe won the TNT Championship. Then there was actually the beatdown of Wardlow, and that's when he cut the hair of Wardlow. And I think this is where this story really took a gear for him, because once we saw the meaning behind the hair cutting for Wardlow, the fact that it was his connection with his father, who's no longer with us, and said that he wanted to do him proud and make it as a professional wrestler, had the look dedicated to him and stuff, that really connected me. I thought this was actually the best storyline for Wardlow since leaving MJF, and for me, it's been the best storyline for Samoa Joe of AEW. He's had some great matches, Joe, but this actually is a story that goes on with it. And for me, I'm fully connected into this one. I've really enjoyed it.
I bet Jonesy was happy when they got some haircutting doing, because I know what Jonesy's a big fan of the old hair versus hair match. So I bet he was gassed for that. But no, yeah, you're right. It's been exciting. Joe, obviously, God, I miss Joe. To this day, I still think about that promo that Samoa Joe cut on Jeff Hardy about going back to AA when Randy was in the ring, and even Randy cracked up, and it makes me miss Joe in the WWE so much. But like I said, he's obviously doing a lot better now. He's a 2-time champ. Well, he's a double belt. He's a double champ, so he's doing all the right things. But yes, it's going to be. I think this is one of them ones that's. I think because Powerhouse Hobbs winning last night, I think that the finish to this might be a bit of an iffy one, because I think this might lead to a 3-way between Wardlow, Joe, and Hobbs at some point, because I think what is it, the ring is for a shot at the TNT title.
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm a bit strung up for a decision with this one, but I reckon this could probably end up going to a 3-way between those guys for that TNT Championship.
A rematch from Full Gear, interesting. Well, especially like you mentioned there, Powerhouse Hobbs there winning the Face of the Revolution ladder match, something that's usually on Revolution, but was actually put on Dynamite this past week, obviously to make some space so it's not such a long show. At the same time, I'm really pleased that Hobbs won it. I think that he certainly has a lot of momentum. A lot of fans were behind him this past week, and I think it'll be an exciting showing when he gets his shot. But he had to stare down with Samoa Joe, teasing the idea of it. Will it be Hobbs versus Joe going forward? Like you say, a screwy finish could make a 3-way. For me, I think it's Would the term be right? Smoke and mirrors. They're trying to sort of like make us think it's going to be one thing, but actually going to deliver another. I've got Wardlow here to get that revenge. I think here, after everything that's happened, how can Wardlow not win the championship here, in my opinion, against Joe? Then to go and take on Hobbs afterwards. Maybe we still get the freeway down the line, but for me, I'm going for Wardlow here to actually become your new TNT champion. And I think we could get a Powerbomb Symphony.
As much as I'd love to agree on that, I'm gonna have to say Joe. For me, I think going forward, I reckon Hobbs is probably going to be the one that costs Wardlow that title, and Joe retains because of it. I think that's good. Like, don't get me wrong, I'd be gassed if Wardlow wins it, but I think Joe winning it and going on to do a three-way for it, I think would be a bigger match. Of course it's going to be a bigger match. It's got three bigger names in it, but I just think it gives an opportunity to extend this a little bit further and milk it through even more than what it's worth.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And Sydney should obviously mention what I said about Full Gear before, that they had done the freeway previously at that show. Yeah. They could easily, definitely run it back. I mean, it was a good match as well. Happy to see them run it back there. Richard in the house, thank you, Richard, for joining us. Says Samoa Joe will win this one. I'm sorry, don't be sorry. It's your prediction, and obviously you're on the NXSTEVE side on that one. We're on different ends of the spectrum at the minute, but certainly will be interesting. We've got Daz as well. Says Joe Muscle Buster will hurt Wardlow. I'm sure it will. It hurt anybody, to be fair, that actually takes the muscle buster. But
to be fair, he's got to try and lift Wardlow into a muscle buster. That's going to be the impressive feat with that.
That's the thing. And will he be able to do so? That's going to be the other feat from that there. And will Wardlow be able to do the Powerbomb Symphony? Maybe one Powerbomb, maybe all that can be done there. It's going to be interesting to see how it will play out. But Daz also going, Joe will win. So a lot of people think Joe is going to win. So a lot of people side of you, NXSTEVE, on this one. So I have to see how it's going to play out. And one other comment from West Coast Podcast, there are picks around. Eddie is in ROH for the title. And for me, that's exciting. Because if that is the case scenario, that means that Eddie Kingston is going after Claudio Castagnoli. And we know that these two have got history from not liking one another and finally can spark off what they did at Blood and Guts last year. Long-term storytelling, they've waited a long time to tell that story. But hey, we're going to get it eventually, which is a good thing.
Just the consistent thing with AEW is just the long-term storytelling is just ridiculously long-term storytelling.
Absolutely. It almost makes me want to jump ahead to one of those matches that we've got lined up, but we're going to wait patiently.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about as well.
I'm going to wait patiently for the one I'm going to talk about there, but we will move on to our next match. And you said it's a match you're looking forward to. It is the four-way for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. We've got the champions, the Guns, against the former champions, the Acclaimed, Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, and the winners of the Casino Tag Team Battle Royal, which were Danhausen and Orange Cassidy. Now, I must admit, first and foremost, I thought FTR were going to be in that spot up until the Best Friends angle last week when the Best Friends were attacked. And I remember Orange Cassidy kind of looking, going, okay. And I thought, right, Orange Cassidy's going to be in this match. There's no two ways about it. Then Dynamite kicked off this week and he was against Big Bill. And I went, hang on, maybe he won't be. And then they announced later on in the night that he would be. And I thought, okay, right, then they'll probably get that spot. But it's a shame if FTR aren't back and to be in this position because they have history with the Guns. And I think that when you look at the tag team division right now, I don't think it's as strong as what it was previously. I look at this now and think that, look, you've got young and upcoming teams. The Acclaimed have got there by merit. They got over so organically. They deserved their moment. But they're still a young tag team. They've got plenty of time in the game. When you look at the Guns, again, many argue that was the wrong decision at the time to give them the championships. Some say that it was too soon for them in their run. Obviously, Danhausen and Orange Cassidy not really a tag team. They're there for, I don't know, comedy, I guess, but could walk away with the gold. And then you've got the experience of Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. Who thought Jeff Jarrett would be on a pay-per-view in 2023, eh? It's amazing, eh? But give us your thoughts then. Hey, you'd think so, wouldn't you? So what's your feelings when you look at AEW's tag team division, when you look at these four teams going for the straps?
It amazes me that the tag team quality they have, like you say, the Bucks are already in a trios tag team match. House of Black are involved in that match. There's no Penta and Phoenix. There's no FTR. So there's a lot of big names missing that could have easily filled this match. And like, I think having Lethal and Jarrett in there is more of a confusing one than I would personally say having a Cassidy and Danhausen in. It's the weirdest thing in the world seeing Jeff Jarrett in a ring in 2023. But hey, Tony obviously knows what he's doing. But I'm looking forward to it. I love tag team wrestling. I'm worried about the result for this one because I'll give mine now. I think the Guns are going to retain. as much as I'd love the Acclaim to win them back, I think they should have just waited for the switch until tonight, because I think it would have been a way just to get the titles off the Acclaim without them having to take a pinfall. So, yeah, for me, I just say the Guns are going to retain. I think they've been doing some great work, to be fair, their whole rivalry with the Acclaimed. I think they need this more to solidify their championship run, if anything, and then can go on and lose it later on in a couple of months. But yeah, I'm shocked, and I'm going to say the Guns retain.
I feel the same as you. I think the Guns are going to retain, mainly because we spoke about FTR could return at some point in the night. This could be the spot they do it for, because obviously the Guns was the rivalry they had. They were the ones that wrote FTR off TV from AEW, of course, back in December. They even had that weird, awful funeral segment that they did at the end of the year show as well.
God,
so, so I think that the Guns hold those championships until FTR come back to reclaim them. But I kind of agree with you on, because the time when the Guns won the championships, for me, I thought Billy Gunn was turning on the Acclaimed. I thought that's what was going to happen, and Billy would go back to his sons. I thought, well, that makes the most logic. The heat goes on Billy, goes on the Guns. Instead, I think they didn't do that because they perhaps wanted to keep Billy doing the stuff he's been doing with the Acclaimed. It's kind of like the modern thing of a DX with your suckets and stuff like that, with the Scissor Me Daddy House and stuff, which still is weird if you want to tell that to someone that's a non-wrestling fan. That's never going to not be weird. What are you feeling with it? Do you reckon it was the wrong decision then when you look back at it? Do you think Billy Gunn still may turn at some point?
It's 50 of one and half of another. Like, don't get me wrong, maybe he should have turned on it and gone back to the Guns, but let's be honest, they're shifting some merch at the minute, and you can't ask for more than that. And if you stick them together, they're just still going to do the same thing. It just maybe would have made sense to keep the titles on them until Revolution, just because, everyone's just a bit like, I remember watching the Guns win the titles, and the crowd were just in shock. It was almost not as bad as when Brock Lesnar beat Taker at Mania, but it was kind of like the same feeling. You were like, it was just a result you was not expecting at all.
Well, it sucked the energy out of the arena, but I think when you compare those two matches, the Brock one was meant to do that. This one, I don't think was meant to do that way. And I think that was the way it was like, oh, we might have mucked up here. But look, they've gone with it. They're going to run with it. And it's clear as well when you look at this, it's a four-way. We've got two rivalries going on here. Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett will continue feuding with the best friends after this, I would imagine. Danhausen and Orange Cassidy are in this spot here. Great to see Cassidy on the show, by the way. So I think he's doing some terrific work at the moment with the All Atlantic Championship. I do think Danhausen's there to take the pinfall, though. And I think that's what's going to help probably everyone escape with credibility at the end of this match, and I think that's the one that the Guns can end up pinning. But it should be a fun match, though, regardless. We're not for tag team wrestling, but like you say, when there's nights of Aussie Open, Top Flight, Lucha Bros, there's so many ones that have not been featured in this FTR. You mentioned there before, many others that have been trios. It's a shame to see a lot of them are not going to be featured in tag team wrestling here, but hey, this one as potentially could be a quiet one that could actually steal the show.
I suppose on the plus side, though, it's good to see someone like the Guns being the tag team champions, because normally it's the bigger names, and the Guns were obviously like they're OGs, they're original AEW wrestlers. So I think for them to actually finally get something out of this, the same as the Acclaim win the tag team titles, it's nice to actually see them handing these titles to people that have been there that long and finally deserve something out of it. Like I said, it was just bad timing in my opinion, but I'm still looking forward to it. I think this is going to be awesome. I love the Acclaimed. The Guns are doing some great heel work. Jarrett's going to hit someone with a guitar. It's always entertaining. And Danhausen's probably going to curse someone. So, yeah, do you know what I mean? I think this is just going to be one of the matches that has a mixture of everything, and there'll be something in this match for everyone.
Absolutely. There'll be a rap at the start of it as well, which I'm always interested in seeing. And I mean, to be fair, like Jeff Jarrett, you mentioned there as well. As much as people hate on Jeff Jarrett, he's been doing some great work actually since he's been back with AEW with the TNA rejects that they've been doing. But still, at the same time, it's been fun stuff. And all round here, I think this can tick a lot of boxes. But let's go into our chat then, see what everyone has got to say. We've got Two Sweet Kyle in the house from On the Mark Wrestling Podcast. Says, love programming my show with some SCW. I'll be listening closely. I need my OTM AEW title back. Hope you guys are well, with a good winky face emoji in there as well. Hope you're doing well, Kyle. And of course, his show will be doing, I believe 1 a.m. UK time, which means it will be 8 p.m. Eastern. get that right there, and 7 p.m. Central Time there for you when they'll be doing their predictions on this show. And I hope you win the title back. I really do. Daz says Guns to retain. So there we go. We've got our first one there. Fun fact from C Nation as well, Orange Cassidy is the first person to win the opening match of a Dynamite and win the main event of a Dynamite in the same night. There we go. Double duty. And I can't think of anyone else that's done that. And C Nation is always full of the fun facts. And I tell you what, that one is a good one. I'm going to keep that one for a quiz one day.
Oh, hang on. Before we go into anything further, right? I heard this fact today. And this is I was actually quite impressed by this, right? Let's see if you can just even guess, right? You can have give me as many clues as you want, right? I heard today that a former WWE tag team who are third generation superstars, both of them, from different people, right? The B team, they were tag team champions at one point, Their fathers, Kurt Hennig and Mike Rotunda, were also tag team champions at one point for the AWA.
Okay.
And then their grandfathers, both of them were also tag team champions together. So all three generations have been tag team champions together. And I was like, how do you even book that, man? How do you get that lucky to pull that story out of the air, man? But yeah, just amazing how wrestling works out sometimes.
It's beautiful. Fun facts all around here tonight. There, I absolutely love that. Absolutely amazing stuff indeed. Thank you for sharing that. And again,
you didn't read that last comment, by the way. You brought it up, but didn't actually read it. Sorry, that was my fault.
Oh no, the C Nation one I've read there. The fun fact of
Orange Cassidy, I thought there was one after that. Sorry, my bad.
There is one coming up now with America, and I believe FTR is going to WWE. He believes, which fair play. If that could actually be a case, we've seen that clip there with the contract and all the championships in the background. So I don't know if it was a tease or not. We'll have to wait and see. But top guys may be out. We'll have to wait and see. Eric Douglas says, Billy, is this company Jey Uso where no one knows where his loyalty lies?
Bloody thicker than water. That's the problem, man. And Billy, they're his kids. He's almost a Keith Slater. They're his kids, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Richard says, spoiler, the Guns will retain due to referee controversy. Interesting. Well, a ref bump could be a way to help Billy Gunn do that turn if he was to do it on this show. So that could be something to keep an eye out for there, Richard, there. Liking that shout. Getcho says, what's good? Hope you're doing well. Getcho podcast. Great to see you guys in house, and hope you're all keeping well. Two Sweet Carl says, sounds like FTR are on their way back. I'm sure they'd be the ones, though, to dethrone the Guns if they retain on Sunday. There we go. C Nation says, I have the Guns retaining the AEW World titles. If they lose, I will ask why give them the belts in the first place there. Obviously, going off to the last comment, it makes sense there with FTR and the Guns there. But going with this comment, I have to say that I would agree with C Nation. What would be the point if the Guns lost the championships here?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like you could say it was a small, gracious thank you for doing so well and putting a great story together with the Acclaimed, I would imagine. But yeah, I can't see them losing. I would be very, very shocked if they lose them titles this weekend.
Same. I feel for me that's almost like the cert of the weekend for me on when I go with the matches.
You can't book them twice badly in a row. You can't book them titles twice wrong. He's got to do it right this time.
I have to agree there. And C Nation says, smaller card for AEW pay-per-view makes sense with a 60-man Ironman match. It certainly does, but it doesn't mean we're going to bed any earlier. That's one thing we've learned from this so far. And one other thing we've learned so far is that, well, we've got some matches that started with a match and looks like they're going to end with a match. I'm talking about the JAS being banned from ringside for Chris Jericho's match against Ricky Starks. Of course, it was the January 4th edition of AEW Dynamite where Ricky Starks picked up that victory against Chris Jericho. It seemed that it was explained to be a bit of a fluke. Of course, Jericho had been on a bit of a ropey time at that point, of course, with the Action Andretti stuff going on. We'd lost that match there, trying to make him a star. Obviously, he's done so in the process. Then it was like Andretti and Starks against the JS for a number of weeks. For me, stuff didn't make a lot of sense. It was kind of like it was a fluke when you need to get the one-on-one match with Chris Jericho again, which he's had to fight for quite a lot. But thankfully, he's got it by basically tricking Jericho. Basically, he did the open contract, said that now I know I'm not going to be facing Jericho, so let's see who will face me at Revolution. His theme song has the Revolution in his title, said he must be on this show. It looked like Peter Avalon wanted to be the guy. It's never going to be Peter, was it? Let's be fair. Chris Jericho coming out and then actually making the claim that he'll be the one to do so. Even have been talked into having the JS being banned from ringside. The keynote from that, though, he said that you've not got one up on me. That was the one thing I remembered at the end of that segment, which made me think, has he got someone else behind the scenes that he's going to bring in. That will be interesting to know on the show. I'll get your thoughts on that in a second. But this past week, obviously Starks was in ring with Jericho again, and Jericho saying to him, well, the JS is banned on Sunday, but he wasn't banned for the evening. So the JS, of course, destroyed Ricky Starks, which makes you think there. I've heard one thing one week, which makes me think Jericho might win. Then I saw what happened on Dynamite last night, and I thought that Starks will win. So basically, what I'm going to do is rather than give my prediction at this point, Steve, I'm going to ask for your feelings with this feud and your prediction first.
Again, this goes back to what I said at the start. The fact that we have to wait so long for these pay-per-views, and unfortunately we have to have these blow-offs. Like, they're so few and far between that it's such a long wait for something that really probably should have been over. I don't even know, probably a month ago at least, I would say. So, yeah, I mean, I want it done. If I'm honest, it's just to the point where it's dragged on. It's not made sense. I want Ricky Starks to go on and do something bigger. I think he's getting to the point now where he should be pushing for a title of some kind, whether it be TNT, whether it be, I don't know, even throw him in the main event scene and throw him up against MJF. Why not? He's supposed to be one of their 4 pillars. They need to start doing something with Ricky Starks now, because I'm not being funny. He's probably one of their best young prospects. And if they don't do something with him, there's always the fear that they could lose him, because he will get snapped up as soon as that contract ends, if and when it does end.
I agree with that as well. Starks has got a lot of potential, and I don't think it's been utilized to its full potential as of yet. But I mean, hey, if he picks up a victory on pay-per-view against a legend in Chris Jericho, that certainly is putting you on the map and putting you in the right direction. I think bright things are on the way for Ricky Starks. Yeah, the feud hasn't fully been for me, I'll be honest with you here, but the last couple of weeks for me have been much improved, and I'm hoping they're going to do the right thing on this show, give Starks the victory. But as I say, keep an eye out if Jericho does have someone in the background, because he did say, you don't outsmart me, when he said that stipulation with the JS being banned from ringside was written in the contract. But I'm going to go with my heart overhead. I'm saying Starks picks up the dub.
Yeah, I mean, I think Starks is going to pick up the dub as well, but then I'd like to think that Starks will also equally have someone in the background to one-up Jericho's one-up, so just to show him up a bit. I mean, if that is the case, unfortunately, it may lead to this actually being dragged out longer, but yeah, I would expect Starks to win. Getting a win over Jericho is going to be massive for him, because Jericho, being a former AEW World Champion, this hopefully pushes Starks in the right way and starts pushing him up towards the top of the card and getting him in that main event title scene.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we need to do. We need to get Starks in that position. Certainly, I know he won the what was it last year? He won the World Title Eliminator tournament that got him the championship. But winter is coming. But obviously, now we need to get Starks where he's more prominently in that position. Obviously, he's fallen down in the card a little bit, but Jericho is by no small feat not a big deal as a feud, but hopefully after this he doesn't fall into obscurity like some people do.
I mean,
kind of like people like Miro. Where the hell is Miro? I've been asked, and it's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that worries me is obviously now with Hobbs winning the ladder match the other night, last night. That only worries me that they'll push Starks in towards the TNT scene if Hobbs then goes on to win that TNT title. And I think Ricky Starks deserves a bit better than that. Like, he's been doing great work for a couple of years now, and I think he just deserves to be, like I said, he's meant to be one of their 4 pillars of AEW. So are you kind of one of your 4 pillars in the mid-card scene? He needs to start pushing these guys further up, that these are going to be the guys that carry this company on their shoulders into the future.
Absolutely. Hopefully it'll be big and bright things ahead for Ricky Starks, regardless of what happens here. But first off here, unrelated comment, and have to ask again, where the hell was Miro? Not in AEW at the minute, it feels. He's not being booked here. I mean, he's someone I really think when his contract runs out, he will end up somewhere else.
I would imagine he goes back to WWE. I imagine he's a big Triple H guy, or Triple H loves Miro. I would, like I said, I hope if that is the case, he goes back. That it's like, even bring Lana back, because I'm not being funny. The pair of them together work. Lana was always a great manager for him. I think he'd be booked a hell of a lot better, and like even bring back like Rusev Day and stuff, because it was so over and it never got a chance to do. Like, the amount of times that the fans naturally progress these people and make them bigger stars than what they like are at that point. Even like, for example, with Sami Zayn at the minute, like, everyone wanted Sami to dethrone Roman. We all majority knew it was probably never going to happen, but Miro Rusev was just one of them ones that went flying under the radar, and unfortunately Vince just didn't want to believe in it. So yeah, hopefully something just works out for him.
Absolutely, of course. And you see what happens when people get the idea of, you know, momentum going and actually rolling with it. You look at someone like Sami Zayn, for example, and see where it's taken him. If they could do that with like a Rusev Day, that would be pretty cool and nice to see. So yeah, I mean, I'm totally down with that. And hopefully, if wherever he ends up, whether he's going to stay in AEW, I hope that he gets a good run because Miro, before he left and went to obscurity, was arguably one of the best TNT champions ever. So for me, I'd like to see him have an opportunity to come back and be that the redeemer that he was. I liked the story directions. I loved the backstage promos that he was doing. I thought everything was pretty sweet. As mentioned, Sami's in a minute ago. I'll deal with this one very quickly. Eric Douglas, does anyone know why Sami gets his rematch at a house show and not Mania? Purely because it's in Canada. I believe it's in Ontario, I believe, where it's going to be, and that's why they've done the house show rematch there. Hopefully, though, it will lead to a television rematch at some point further down the line. Probably, though, more likely after WrestleMania, which is apologies to you there, Eric, for that. But C Nation got his prediction here for us for this match then. Ricky Starks versus Chris Jericho. He's got Ricky Starks winning. Having 2 victories over Chris Jericho is a big deal, and I have to agree with that. It is a big deal indeed. Too Sweet Cal says this. Go on.
Sorry, just to say, especially as MJF is the champ, that makes it more likely that he'll go towards that main event soon.
It definitely pushes him up that ladder a lot quicker, definitely. Two Sweet Cal says this match has been conflicted since Starks won their last matchup. And that's where I actually felt a little bit as well with that, because where I said to you before, with what Jericho said, you never outsmart me, would it lead to a third match? But I feel like a lot of people, this feud needs to finish. We need to move to a new direction. I think if we continue to have this going on, I think people were cheering when Starks said he was going to move on from Jericho in that arena before the match was made. So I think that the feelings have been made clear here that they don't want this feud to carry on. They want to see new things. So I think that's the reason why I'm going to go with Starks to pick up the W.
Because let's be fair, they can always revisit it. For example, at some point in the future, if Starks was ever to become AEW champion, there's a rivalry already there to go back and revisit. I mean, MJF being champion, he has a plethora of people that you can automatically put into a story for him as a rivalry going forward. So, like I said, letting Starks have this win is just going to do nothing but give you something to future book.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what it's. That's the name of the game, after all. Richard says everyone will sell their souls to the JS. Let's see if someone will do this Sunday and join Jericho afterwards. But if they're not an official member as of yet, Dan says Jericho to win by DQ. If Starks has a team, could cost him. Interesting. Yeah, imagine if it was Action Andretti, that turned on Starks and joined the JS.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's not beyond the realm of possibility for that to actually happen. Like it's something like you could actually probably see happening, to be fair.
It's something just to keep an eye out for there. That's what we'll say with that there. Sinisha says, no disrespect, but 4 pillars of AEW: MJF, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, and Jungle Boy Jack Perry. But Ricky Starks can still carry the company. I think you were referring to, I think though you're more referring to as like one of those people, though, you're looking to get to that next level, I think was what Steve was referring to there, Sinisha. But thank you for letting us know about the pillars anyway. And Too Sweet Carl says, Rusev versus Gunter. Give it to me. We're talking about printing money on this. That certainly would be doing that.
The thing is, at the minute, is no matter who you put next to Gunter, everyone's just like, yes, I want to see that. There isn't a name you can't put next to him at the minute and just be like, yeah, I actually kind of want to see that. There was one I saw earlier. Yeah, I don't want to see that. Rusev would destroy it. Gunter would destroy him. That'd be funny as hell. That'd be amazing.
Yeah,
there isn't a name you could probably put in, and even someone like Reggie, man, just let him flip all over the ring, and then all of a sudden Gunter just chops him once and pins him. It'd be hilarious, man.
Absolutely. The one I really wanted to say was Dominic Mysterio, and I think everyone would be really keen on seeing Dom take a few chops right now. But anyway, we shall move on to our next match anyway, ladies and gents. So feel free to let us know your predictions with this one. I talked about rivalries that have got long-term booking earlier on in the video, so that's for the point now where we're going to come back to it here. It is the no-holds-barred match between Jungle Boy Jack Perry and Christian Cage, because believe it or not, this actually really goes back to Double or Nothing a good couple of years ago when fans first came back after the pandemic. I believe 2021, yeah. There was a casino battle royale and Jungle Boy eliminated Christian Cage to get a world title shot. I know I'm going very far back here. And you could see it on that day. Christian Cage was not happy that one of these pillars of AEW, these young lads, threw Christian Cage out to get this opportunity. Christian at times said he would mentor. Obviously, that's when the jokey stuff came and said that, I think he said he had family that was part dinosaur, which was got him with Luchasaurus, as you do. Obviously, we fast forward a long time. The Tag Team Championships won for Jungle Express. Then obviously the turn happened after they lost the championships. Christian being the guy that sort of wanted to be with Jack Perry's mum and all that sort of stuff, which was edgy content each and every week. Then we got to All Out, and then the injury struck for Christian Cage. This match couldn't take place. So when this feud already gone for like a year and a half at that point, Christian's been on the shelf for the last 6 months. We've had the Luchasaurus feud with Jungle Boy in the meantime with the Cage match. And since then, Jungle Boy, he's kind of had just a lot of singles matches, has won a lot of them by roll-up, as Christian actually made mention to this past week. But of course, Christian did return, attack Jungle Boy, showed that he's good to go. The week previous, just gone, before last night, it was actually Jungle Boy that attacked Christian Cage. Looked like Jungle was going to do the concerto, but then actually sort of bottled it at the last second. Christian then getting the one-upsmanship and using Jungle Boy's head on that chair multiple times. This past week, Christian saying he will be the one to win the singles championship this year, not Jungle Boy, and he's the one that has that killer instinct. Of course, then we kind of had the, I don't know if Darby Allin's had a bit of influence on Jungle Boy, because he was digging a grave, and there was a grave with Christian's name on. It has been announced, as I said, since we've not got a Buried Alive match, which first was actually something I considered we might be getting here, which just didn't really make sense either. But we've got a no holds barred match, and from my memory here, Steve, before I get your thoughts of everything here, I have this visual aid of when we had, I believe it was Adam Cole and the Young Bucks against the Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, I believe it was Christian back at Full Gear. I think that was 2021 as well, where Jungle Boy actually did the concerto at that point to win them the match here. I wonder if that's the sort of spot they're looking to try and recreate here with Jungle Boy and Christian in this match here, to get that sort of big plucky finish for the young up and coming babyface.
I don't think you're going to get it this weekend. As long as this has been going on, I think it's still got longer to go, because they've already foretold that this has got to involve a title at some point, and they're both arguing the fact that they're both going to win a singles title this year. So at some point, one of them needs to pick up the TNT title, and that's where this feud needs to end. And I don't think you're going to see it this weekend. I think you're going to have the same thing as you had 2 weeks ago. You're going to have Jungle Boy hesitate to do it. He's not going to do it, and that's what it will take when there's a title involved, and he will finally do it at some point in the future. He will finally hit that concerto and finally finish this feud off. But I don't think it's going to end this weekend. This is going to probably drag out for another 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
I thought you were going to say years for a second there.
No. It can't go on that long.
Well, you never know with AEW storytelling.
Yeah,
sometimes they drag them on for a long time. But do you know what? You make a lot of sense here with what you've said. Then I can see exactly where you're going with that, because they both said about the championships. So, I mean, for example, an All Atlantic Championship or a TNT Championship could make sense further down the line. But
you know what? I forget the All Atlantic Championship exists sometimes. I sit there constantly thinking that it's only the TNT title. But that's a great shout, the All Atlantic title. If one of them two can get that, go on to that one, because then it makes more sense to drag it out even longer.
It does make sense in that case, but I'm going to still say that I think we're given the hope that this chapter is finished for now, at least this Sunday. I'm going to go for Jungle Boy to pick up the victory. I think that magical moment will happen. I just believe that Christian Cage will make sure he wins the championship first, and maybe Jungle Boy can win a title for him. But it would be nice, though, to do that storyline, like you said there, where Jungle Boy gets that big win and wins the title from Christian. I think there would be a nice little telling touch. But the only question is, though, as I said, how much longer can you keep this going on for? I think people are ready to move on. So for me, for that reason, I will go with Jungle Boy.
I'm going to go Christian. I think Christian has to pick that title up, and it has to be Jungle Boy's crowning moment where he takes that title off of Christian. So for me, I'm going to say Christian wins.
To be honest with you, I think you're swaying me. I'm not going to lie to you. I think what you say makes a lot of sense. C Nation Dog says AEW's build up for this pay-per-view has been lazy. Chris Jericho versus Ricky Starks, John Moxley versus Hangman Adam Page are literally rematches from Dynamite a couple of weeks ago. They are rematches, but obviously this is what WWE used to do all the time, and I suppose it worked for WWE. So I guess Tony's trying something different here. But I mean, there are some rematches on this show. We can't deny that. Even Samoa Joe, Wardlow faced off before also. So it's interesting how it's going to play out. But I still think that this show overall, we said this at the start of the video, I still have some intrigue and some excitement to it.
Yeah, just for the pure fact that there's a trios match, there's a 4-way tag team match, there's a Texas death match, there's a 60-minute. You've got something different for everyone, so I'm sure you'll find something on this show to enjoy.
I think so as well. There certainly think there is some things to take away from this. And Daz reckons Jungle Boy to win. Also, do you think Edge will go to AEW? For me, I don't think it will happen at this point. I think Edge will retire from WWE, and I sadly think it's not in the too distant future. I think that I would say 12 months maximum left.
I'd actually say Mania this year. I think
Wow.
Finn Balor. I think the Demon is going to finish Edge off. I'd hope not, and I'd like to see Edge at least get one more title run because I think he's deserved it from the fact he had to retire with it. But yeah, I can't see Edge going to AEW. But he's going to be on a Legends contract. His name is solidified with WWE. I'd be very surprised if he goes anywhere else.
He almost joined AEW, didn't he, before he went back to WWE,
Did.
didn't he? Of course, back in 2020. But just to say, though, I would love the idea of Edge and Christian versus FTR. We've mentioned FTR a few times in this stream, but that would be a tag team match I would love to see at some point further down the line. But hey, maybe it's only a dream at this point.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. If the FTR go back to WWE, that's automatically a 6-man tag match there with Judgment Day. If you put FTR with Edge, and then they go up against those for a Judgment Day, I would love to see that.
I would love to as well. That would be really,
But
really
then
fun.
as well, also Cody come out today and said Edge is one of the people we'd like to face as well. So I believe that his contract probably will go on for another 12 months.
Hopefully, I would like to see Edge just continue for a bit longer, just because, well, I'm also selfish and I enjoy his in-ring work and storytelling. But C Nation says, I remember Tony Khan saying that there wouldn't be much rematches once. That didn't age well. No, I think he did say a lot of that and dig out WWE previously, but obviously he's now going back on that word. It's interesting that he's doing that because he hasn't done that until very recently.
To be fair, he's starting to wind his roster down now, so it's going to be a case of this is going to be a more likely thing now. Like for the fact that there's only 3 members of the Dark Order left, at one point they were the hottest thing in AEW, and the fact that there's only 3 of them left is honestly the biggest shock to me. Those guys were so massive, and like the fact that they never gave them a tag team title run at their height, or do you know what I mean? It was such a shock and such a sad thing to see. And now the fact there's, say, 3 of them left, and then there was this thing, there was the promo this week where you had Silver and Reynolds saying that this is our last chance at winning tag team gold, and it's like, well, what is that supposed to mean? Does that mean Dark Order's no more? And obviously Uno got the hell beaten out of him last week by Moxley, and it's like, well, what does this mean going forward? I don't know, but yeah, I'm really gutted that they are a shell of what they used to be.
Yeah, same, because they felt like we were going to get some momentum at one point, and it does seem to have fizzled out, unfortunately. But I do think that the ones that are still there, I think those ones will be sticking around for the long term. Obviously, John Silver is massively over with the crowd anyway, and Evil Uno is big in the gaming side of things, and Alex Reynolds, good tag team partner, and does some good stuff as well with John Silver. So I'd like to think they would be sticking around for a bit. Eric Douglas says Jamie Hayter could go to WWE when she becomes a free agent. Would not be against that. We'll be talking about Jamie Hayter very shortly. Steve, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I was just going to say, the only problem is WWE's women's division is stacked. There's so much talent.
It's a huge roster at the moment there. Sinister says only see one title change happening on the show, and that's with the TNT Championship. Wardlow to get his win after getting his hair cut off by Samoa Joe. Well, we have discussed that earlier in the stream. Then actually, myself and Steve, we went opposites of that one. I went with Wardlow, and Steve went with Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
Sinister's Private Party is another tag team that I think should have AEW Tag Team Championships by now. Remember when they beat the Young Bucks? They were definitely over when they beat the Young Bucks. I think they'd be perfect for Ring of Honor, personally.
They probably will end up doing something like going to Ring of Honor, but this just seems to be the thing with Tony Khan. When he's got these opportunities to make these massive stars, and he just doesn't pull the trigger on them all. And Private Party, again, at one point where they were higher than the Acclaimed, they were higher than the Guns. They were like one of the biggest tag teams that AEW had at one point, and they just never pulled the trigger with them. And it's like they just instead what they do stick tag titles on the Young Bucks, and it was like you just missed your opportunity. And now they're doing skits with Matt Hardy on being the Elite, apparently.
Yeah, I think they're stuck with Ethan Page at the moment. So it would be nice to see Private Party get that moment. But like you say, they've fallen from grace from that moment. They're not nowhere near in that category at the moment. But hey, we're going to move on to our next match. In the meantime, we've got 3 matches left to go. And arguably, some would say the 3 biggest matches on this show. We're going to start with a specialty match that you don't see too often in wrestling these days. It is the Texas Death Match. Jon Moxley against Hangman Adam Page. These two have faced off 3 times already. Starting off in October, Hangman Page, of course, was actually genuinely knocked out from a clothesline from Jon Moxley in a championship match when Moxley retained. Then we saw a rematch, I believe, in January. I'm going to say in January. It feels good to say January, where Hangman Page got the clean victory back. These two then did the rubber match where Jon Moxley won by roll-up. But it seemed that that was not enough at this point. Obviously, Hangman wanted to put Moxley on the shelf, which is what he did after the second match. So now these two have put each other on the shelf. It's got personal. Obviously, Moxley said, he's a different animal altogether. We see he's bleeding every single opportunity. He was even bleeding last night on Dynamite when he's not actually involved on the show in a match. He's still bleeding.
I imagine come Sunday, he'll get in the ring and just start bleeding without being touched. That's automatically what I expect with Jon Moxley now.
It seems to be, obviously. And the thing is, it should be safe for moments like a Texas Death Match, in my opinion, because that's when it will make the most impact. That's the thing. Less is more when it comes to in wrestling. But hey, Moxley, still a hell of a performer, still doing great things nonetheless. But Hangman Adam Page obviously said that, he is like that good human being, but he's going to put Moxley in his place this Sunday. For me, I have enjoyed the physicality of these two. I think that they're going to put on something special here with this Texas Death Match stipulation.
Yeah, it's just my worry is where the pair of them go from. Depending on the result, where they go from here. Because if Page loses, what do you do with Hangman Page? Because he's got no momentum at the minute. He's just taken a massive loss to Jon Moxley. If that's what happens, Moxley Moxley can take the loss and still be fine and move on. But I'm really worried for Page because when he won, like I said on the show before, when he won that world title, his story just fell flat and he just wasn't the biggest thing on the show. And that's what I worry about. If he loses this, he's just going to disappear and not be as prominent on TV. So it's really going to be interesting to see what happens with the victory in this one.
It is because, like you said, I think you alluded that a minute ago. Moxley will be probably fine whatever he does. Of course, he's got the BCC, so trios action. We still not had Blackpool Combat Club against the Elite. I think that could be quite fun, as I predicted the Elite to win earlier. But even House of Black would be a fun trios match as well, or fun program you could do with that also. So there is places to go with Moxley. We've seen Moxley versus MJF previously. Maybe the revisit with the Danielson stuff, because Danielson doesn't seem to be a part of the BCC anymore these days, not properly anyway, if he's meant to be. Someone clarify to me if I'm right or wrong with that in the comments, please. But looking at this, Hangman Adam Page, like you say, needs that win. And for me personally, forget who you think will win the 60-minute Ironman match. I think if Hangman wins this, he's that next guy in line. When you're talking Double or Nothing, or if you're doing one of these big special shows in the meantime, you could do Hangman Adam Page as the number 1 contender. This could be that thing that catapults him. If he loses, we've seen the Cowboy sub story a number of times. I'm not opposed to seeing him having to dust himself off and pick himself back up and get back on that horse again. But at the same time, I think this is a moment here where you say, give Hangman his due, give him a big win against Jon Moxley in this sort of specialty match, and you can move him on to become the number 1 contender.
I think if he loses, he's got to do something drastic like turn heel. It's just got to be. He's got to be something that like you just said, we've had the Cowboy sob story, dusts himself off, gets back on his horse, and just carries on again. I think he needs to turn heel. We kind of had shades of it in the promo yesterday that he was like, I've got nothing left. You can't carry my heart. Do you know what I mean? You can't hurt me, blah, blah, blah. I think we just have to get some sort of evil Hangman now, because I think it's the only way you'll get out of it is if he doesn't win.
I think it'd be a nice twist and a big talking point coming out the show as well, because Hangman, obviously, if he was a heel, depending on who might win that main event, maybe it wouldn't make sense for him to go for the championship, but certainly would give him new direction. So I wouldn't be opposed to that. I think it would freshen things up. Hangman's been a babyface the whole time in AEW so far. The last time I can remember him being a heel was probably a part of Bullet Club in Ring of Honor, probably back 2018 or something like that. So it's been a while since we've seen Hangman in that heel role. And it could be an interesting twist.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well, because it's been so long since we've seen it, and it's on Ring of Honor. Unless you sign up to Honor Club and you can go back and watch all the old stuff from 2018, but
Yeah.
it's been a lot. And to be fair, it's not even like he was one of the most prominent members of Bullet Club. Like, he was essentially. Do you remember how they had NWO Japan? Like,
Yes,
he was
yes.
essentially Bullet Club USA. Like, it was it was like he'd go to Japan, but he was more prominently over here in Ring of Honor and stuff. Same as Adam Cole. Very rarely Adam Cole will go to New Japan. He was more ROH based. So yeah, we just need to see something different from him.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be against it, but I'm going to stick with the prediction. I'm going Hangman Adam Page to win, remain babyface, and go to become the number one contender for the championship.
I'm going to say Hangman wins as well, because I think he needs it more than anything. But if he does lose, he needs to turn heel.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that you've hit the nail on the head there. And someone else has hit the nail on the head here, Too Sweet Carl. I think he could be right with this. He has odds of Moxley bleeding at -1,000. For those who don't gamble, that's a heavy favourite, lol. Yeah, I still think that you're going to need to put a lot of money on to get any money out of that bet. But certainly, probably the most certain thing of the entire show. Going on then, C-Nation Dog says, are the Blackpool Combat Club baby faces or heels? Moxley, Castanogi, and Wheeler Yuta acting like heels, while Bryan Danielson is acting like a babyface. Steve?
Couldn't even tell you at this point. It's like since Regal's left, the Blackpool Combat Club have really been a non-existent. It's mainly just been Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta more than anything as Blackpool Combat Club. Moxley's had an occasional bit with them every so often, and like you said, Brian's not been anywhere as involved. So I don't know what. Like, they were so good at the start, and it feels like since Regal's left, they've just fallen flat. But I couldn't tell you what they are at the minute.
No, it's a bit messy at the moment with them, and if I'm honest with you, I don't have a much better answer either. But people still cheer the Blackpool Combat Club, so I think it's that shade of grey at the minute. I think their tweeners is probably the best way to go with it. But obviously, Brian is definitely on babyface territory at the moment. But yeah, it's not the clearest direction when we see it on the TV sets with the booking at the moment. C-Nation goes on also to say John Moxley and MJF could have a rubber match as Moxley beat MJF at All Out 2020 and MJF beat Moxley at Full Gear 2022. Wouldn't be opposed to it. The only thing I would say is though Full Gear 2022 wasn't that long ago, and obviously with the so fewer shows that AEW has for you, you'd like to think if they did a rubber match, you see the gap there between those two shows of match one and match two. You'd like to think they would drag it out further, although, as Sinisha said earlier, we're getting a lot of rematches at the moment anyway.
Yeah, again, it goes back to the problem. They don't have as many pay-per-views but the MJF has so many people he could face. Like, for instance, if they do or were to bring back CM Punk, they have CM Punk as an option for MJF. They have Chris Jericho as an option for MJF. They have Moxley. They have Ricky Starks. They have Jungle Boy. There's so many people that they could do as MJF's next feud. I really wouldn't want them to go back and see something we've already seen before. I'd rather see something new.
I would like to see something fresh. I think with the thing with AEW at the minute, I need to see some fresh stuff. And that's what I think gives me some excitement with this show. So I have the feeling a lot of the chapters are going to close off. I think that we are going to get a reset button after this. And I think it's going to be quite pleasant to see when we go then towards Double or Nothing, another one of the biggest shows of the year that AEW does. Claudio is defending his title against Eddie Kingston tonight. Fantastic, Eric. Thank you for sharing that for us there. That is going to be a big time match there, and that actually gives me reason to want to go and check Ring of Honor out. I'm not going to lie to you, I've not been so invested.
I've got a feeling you could see a title change there.
And
what a way to launch your first show back, and you have Eddie Kingston pick up the ROH title in the first night.
Massive. That would actually be massive. And Kyle, obviously, doing on the Mark Wrestling podcast later on. Obviously, if I'm not mistaken, I think he said Erica will be joining back, who's a big Eddie Kingston fan, to see her reaction if Kingston does gets the win. Would be interesting to see on the stream later. Eric says, "Can someone please explain what the difference is between a regular Extreme Rules match and this Texas Death Match?" There's no real difference, really, is there, in the modern day and world of professional wrestling?
It just means it's more fitting for Hangman Page because he's a cowboy, and cowboys outside of the US are most commonly associated with Texas. So I think that one, that's all I can really say towards it. But it's the same as anything. Falls count anywhere, no holds barred, no DQ. They're all the same. It's just a fancy name.
Street Fight, yeah. I mean, sometimes you get like 3 or 4 of these on the same show with different names. It's like, yeah, it's the same thing. Weapons have been involved. So, yeah, that's pretty much what you're getting here. So, yes.
Different match, yay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But there will be blood, as Stu Carl mentioned earlier on. And he did say, yes, Erica is a huge fan indeed there. Looking forward to seeing the band back together later on. But speaking of terrific trios, we've got a women's championship match we're going to discuss next. The AEW Women's World Championship. We've got the champion Jamie Hayter defending against Saraya and Ruby Soho. And well, this is going to be an interesting one to explain how we got from where we were to where we are. Jamie Hayter, of course, now is the Women's World Champion. Her and Britt Baker have been feuding with Saraya and Toni Storm. It felt like that that Hayter and Britt Baker were the heels, but they did some good promo work going into Full Gear, making you feel like, is it going to switch the other way around? AEW pulled the trigger. Saraya and Toni Storm did the heel turn. Of course, it initially started with Hikaru Shida of picking Toni Storm as the tag team partner, having the best female was Saraya's partner, which made me think originally Shida would be the one to turn heel. That didn't happen. But it's become a case of the AEW homegrown against the people that came from the other place, which is quite interesting. And where that kind of makes things interesting with Ruby Soho is she came from the other place. So Saraya wants her a part of those ranks, but everyone apparently says backstage that Ruby is so awesome, and it feels like she's already been like one of those homegrown people here. So it kind of has thrown her in the middle where we're not kind of known whether she's coming or going. Now, admittedly, I do have a bit of a gripe somewhere in the middle of this because there was a dynamite that was built around a main event where Ruby was meant to make her decision, and she didn't make one. She just won the match. But we have this three-way here, and I think that look, it's a storyline we've got here. And for the longest time, we said we want to see more going with the women's division in AEW. This is at least a storyline that we've got here, something we can sink our teeth into, and something here that I think is actually a placeholder for what's going to continue going forward. I mentioned about hitting the reset button. I think that this actually story is actually entering its second phase of a 3-phase story. So I think that actually we've got quite a way to go with this one. But I'm actually quite intrigued with this match. I think that there are options it could go any way to here.
Yeah, it's a baffling one because you can't understand why you'd throw Ruby Soho in this equation. Like maybe you should have done a Ruby Soho on a pole match or something. Maybe it would have made a bit more sense. But the fact that it's a world title match and it's like, hang on, you've got two people that are rivaling each other and the other one that can't make up their mind. So it's like it is kind of confusing, but I'm not going to criticize it. We've got women's wrestling on a pay-per-view, so I can't argue with that. So, yeah, it's a bit of a strange story, but I like the fact that they're doing the whole kind of outsiders thing with Toni Storm and Saraya. I was always a fan of that when they invaded WCW. So to see that kind of thing replicate again, but this time with the women is, I think, even better because it's just something new that we've never had before.
Yeah, and I think that, as I said, I think this is going to be layers to this story. I think that, as I said, that there was an argument here that perhaps maybe Ruby still in the middle, everyone else is fighting all over the place, can't make up their mind of what's going on. Ruby just comes in and wins the championship. That could be something that can happen. Could be that Ruby ends up being on team with Saraya at the end of this, or Saraya wins the championship, or Saraya through the confusion the others walks away with the championship, or Jamie Hayter just proves she's still the best women's wrestler in the world right now, and she actually goes and, certainly in AEW's division anyway, and goes and retains that championship. There's different arguments all the way around here of what can happen. Here's what I predict is going to happen now and beyond. We hadn't mentioned actually from a live streamer before, and I appreciate the person who put the comment at the time. I think it was actually Noob and Co. did this a couple of weeks ago of the end destination. So this is why I'm going to kind of give Noob that credit. But I think Jamie Hayter is going to retain here. I think that through frustration at the end of the match, she's going to end up pinning Ruby Soho. And I think Ruby Soho is going to make her mind up at the end of the match, and she is going to join the outsiders, if you will, of Saraya and Toni Storm, because she didn't get the job done. It may be a case of, I don't know, something she tried to do in the match that didn't connect right, and that's where she kind of thinks, I'm better off with the bad guys rather than being with the good, with the good girls. So I think that's what it's going to lead to, and I think that ultimately we'll build to Hayter versus Saraya as a singles match, and I think that as you gradually build the sides up, you can have the ex-WWE side, you can have the homegrown AEW side, and that will give you your first ever women's blood and guts match later on this year. That's where I think it's going to lead to. So, I'm going to say that Jamie Hayter here retains the championship, and this leads to Ruby Soho joining on Saraya's team. That's my ultimate for where we are now.
I'm going to go with Jamie Hayter just because it's the safest bet. I honestly could not split these three because they each have equally a decent story to say why they should win the title. But I'm just so baffled by this three-way that the story just, like, I'm intrigued to see how it will play out. Because like you said, it's a case of, does someone try and do something that doesn't work out? Is it a case of, I don't know, Jamie and Saraya are knocked out, and then Ruby has to stand and pick, well, which one do I pin, kind of thing. I don't know. I'm really weirded out to see how it's going to finish. I'm just going to say Jamie for the safe bet of it because she's the champ and has champion's advantage. So I'm going to go with that one.
Absolutely. I mentioned an idea a minute ago about Ruby joining. What if Ruby's in this all along? Actually, she's just going to help Saraya win the championship, and there'll be a twist towards the end of the match. Could be quite interesting.
What if Ruby's got her own group? And we get a 2-on-2-on-2 or something. I don't know, but it's like I honestly couldn't tell you. That's what I mean. It doesn't make sense to have the three of them against each other. This should have been a culmination of the feud. This should have been Ruby joins one of them and then turns on them, and then we get the three-way payoff. Essentially, I don't know. That's what I mean. It's just a weird spot to have this match in, but I'm just going to stick with Jamie to retain.
Could be fun. I like the idea of Ruby having her own group as well. Imagine the Soho squad. That could be quite interesting. Can't have
as
the
long
right
as it's
squad
not the
these
right
days.
squad again. As long as it's not that again.
Too Sweet Carl says, I think you strike when the iron's hot. The heat Saraya is getting is great. Why not ride that heat and maybe Jamie can win it back later? I mean, it's a fair argument here. And like I said, I think any woman can win the championship here. And I think Saraya, she'll be a champion at some point.
I mean, why not hot potato it between the three of them? Have Saraya pick it up, then do this match again, do another three-way, have Ruby pick it up, then do another three-way, and have Jamie pick it up. You could play off the dynamic differently every time. So someone gets pinned this way this time, and like you just hot potato it between the three of them, and then it just culminates in one final match where it's, I don't know, 60-minute Ironman match with 3 women and see who comes out on top then. But I don't know, that might be a fun idea to do with it. It's just I still don't get the dynamic of having a freeway at this point in the story.
That's fair. I mean, I think that, Kyle, you could be on the money. I thought that when they do the singles match, then Saraya could win. I think she'll win the championship at some point, whether it's here or later. I think that would be the case. But I think that on this night, I think that that level of the story, for me, I just think that we could do other things before getting Saraya that championship. And obviously, we're used to seeing long reigns as champions. It'd be a big shock if Hayter was to lose it, obviously, at this point, but she hasn't got to be involved in the decision either. There's so many ways this one actually can go. And it's why, actually, it's one of the matches I'm quite excited for. As C Nation says, I think Ruby Soho was added so she can take the pin to protect Saraya. That certainly makes a lot of sense into that as well. And I think that could add to the frustration to her at the end of the match, why she would join Team Saraya. Eric goes on to say, I think Hayter or Saraya has to win because with London looming large, obviously, AEW will be coming to the UK. That would be a great way to do it, wouldn't it? Having Saraya as the AEW Women's Champion. Obviously, you have Jamie Hayter, who's obviously from Southampton as well.
Yeah, it makes sense for either one of them to carry that title into the UK. Like, I don't know what time. I'm pretty sure they're close to announcing it, but it's supposed to be, I think, June or July time over here, whenever they're supposed to be doing it. I think it's actually supposed to be close to around the same time as Money in the Bank, if not, I don't know. But yeah, it's like, because obviously we know what the British weather's like, and depending on where they're going to put it, because I won't get into the absolute show of trying to get tickets for Money in the Bank, because that was an absolute nightmare. I didn't even get any in the end because I just got bumped out of it because of the price of them.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't bother in the end either, and obviously, for a lot of the rest of us that would try and do both, have them both around the same time. We wait for these shows, and they will come at the same time. Would be a bit of a shocker, but hey, hopefully, it gives people an opportunity to go to more shows.
It was just deliberately the fact that you had to buy a ticket for both SmackDown and Money in the Bank. You couldn't just buy Money in the Bank tickets, so you were automatically paying at least £100 for 2 seats, like for 2 nights, which isn't bad if you think about it. But it's a case of we're in the middle of a cost of living crisis over here in the UK, so who's got £100 to buy? And they're god tier seats as well. So you're up in the rafters, and the O2 is not the best place to be sitting in the rafters, because I'm telling you what, you can get vertigo from sitting in that in the rafters in that place. It's horrible.
Oh, really? Okay, I've never been to the O2, so it's interesting that insight there.
Just a word of warning: if you ever do go, do not get the god tier seats, because the seating's so weird that when you stand up, you feel like you're going to fall forward. It's horrible.
Oh, that's not good. Not a good feeling at all. Now. Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've discussed every single match, but we have one more to go, Steve, and I think we should get into it. It's the main event after all.
It's your main event.
Should come up in a second. Here we go. AEW World Championship, 60-minute Ironman match. The world champion MJF will be defending against Bryan Danielson. And I've got to say, this one obviously starting through William Regal. Obviously, all that controversy. Who remembers Regal being written off TV by MJF after that whole big story and was set up for an entity to go to WWE? Still, they've taken something that was... dare we say, that could have turned into chicken shit, and they turned it into chicken salad, thankfully, because Bryan Danielson has wanted to get revenge on behalf of Regal since. And obviously, MJF has done that classic game, hasn't he? If you want to get to me, you're going to have to work your way to get to that position. Bryan Danielson had to make himself #1 contender. I've had some great matches against the likes of Bruges, against Bandido. I think Brian Cage was a match we had at one point. So there's been some good matches we've seen with Bryan Danielson. Takeshita was another one as well, which led to a mini feud with Takeshita and MJF as well. We've got to the stage, though, now where this has got to the war of words. Obviously, MJF has said some pretty personal things along the way, but I think probably the highlight of everything was the promo where he compared his engagement being broken off and saying how Bryan Danielson offended him because of the fact that every time he goes into the ring after the amount of concussions and stuff he's had, he's choosing this over family, something he would beg and die for. For me, was really passionate. And the fact that he spoke into the camera to his wife and kids was a really, really for me, I thought was definitely one of the most hottest angles I've seen in wrestling in quite a while. And then obviously we've seen the pull aparts going on with these two. And this past week, I mean, Bryan Danielson, I have to paraphrase it. He said, you have to either step up for these 60 minutes or he's going to kick his fucking head in. It's not often you swear on the screens, but hey, I'm paraphrasing here, folks. I'm surprised that actually made air as well. But hey, look, these two, it's about 60 minutes here. Most falls in that time. Pinfall, submission, count out, DQ, all are going to count here in making those falls. Bryan Danielson, obviously, is a guy, he's a 60-minute man. He's the man who wanted this match to begin with. He said he can out-wrestle MJF for 60 minutes. He may be able to out-wrestle him, but will he be able to outsmart MJF? We know that MJF always has a plan. He works smarter, not harder. And I think that it's going to be an interesting proposition. I really think that we've seen some great Ironman matches over the years. One that comes to mind immediately from 60 minutes is Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle back in 2003. And I think that we could get something similar of a spectacle of this with this match. I think we get a lot of falls here.
Yeah, I'm expecting shenanigans galore with this. I'm expecting DQ victories. I'm expecting tap out pit victories. I'm expecting pinfall victories. I'm expecting a whole plethora of pinfalls in this by every which way possible. I would be very shocked if we go 60 minutes to get one pinfall, put it that way. But it's been a long time since I've watched a 60-minute Ironman match. Like you said, the Brock Kurt one, I vaguely remember that. That's do you know what I mean? My brain instantly went to like Austin against Brett, and I was like, nah, I've definitely seen one since then. But you know what I mean? I'm looking forward to it. It's just again, it's the fact that this show's going to be about 7 hours long. It's just the unreal point of this. How you can have this many matches and then put a 60-minute Ironman match at the end is just outrageous. Because I got a feeling this crowd is going to be so tired by the end of this show.
I think the pacing of this show is going to be interesting. You have to do the match structure to get it right. Something that's perhaps a bit lukewarm needs to go in the spot before the main event, so people have a time to, I don't know, not say people will have their toilet breaks, but certainly get refreshed up, save their energy to restore it. People will kick in when it comes to main event time. They always do with these shows. And I think that, like you said, expect everything in the kitchen sink in this one. I think Bryan Danielson will get the first fall, out wrestling MJF. And I think from that point onwards, that's where MJF will probably let himself go 2-0 down, because he'll probably use a steel chair, something or whatever, to do some damage on Bryan Danielson's shoulder. Obviously, that's where he's been targeting at this point. He even showed as well the sort of the earth from Christopher Daniels on the build up to this as well. Was meant to have broke Daniels' arm, but of course he's featuring on the Ring of Honor show tapings this evening as well at the time of recording. But that being said, I think that leads to MJF then perhaps getting a quick 2 falls back. Obviously, can then lead it to like 3-2 going in advantage, maybe 4-2 if Danielson is really suffering. And that's when you can get the comeback story kicking in. Danielson perhaps looking to get maybe, like you said, a submission victory, getting, MJF to tap out once with the, I want to say the S-lock, but obviously he's got a different name for it these days. And obviously he could probably do the running knee as well, get to 4-4. We can have like a really sort of nail-biting finish. If MJF gets a 5-4, which is what I think will finish, I'm going for MJF.
I was literally going to say the same thing.
And I think you'll get the chase kicking in, going with a minute to go. MJF just running around the arena. Imagine you get that submission hold in there with about 30 seconds to go, with MJF desperately looking to do the hand gesture. And I reckon as soon as that bell rings, 1 second later he taps.
I reckon he'll pass out right as the bell goes. I reckon MJF will pass out, and the ref will then, just as he's about to pass out, and you just get the 0, and then that's it. The referee the bell just automatically rings. But it will be some sort of animation as the bell will ring, and then the ref stands up and tells them to ring the bell for the thing. But yeah, I reckon it's going to go down to the wire for that one.
Absolutely. Just to say quickly, just before we go to our chat, imagine if it was a draw at 60 minutes and they do overtime.
Oh, don't do this to me, man.
I don't mean to put it out into the world.
Oh, yeah, because now it's out there now. Now someone out there is going to bring that to life. And we're going to have to go 70 minutes, 80 minutes now, because it won't just be over 3 minutes. No, they'll go another 20 minutes. They'll go 80 minutes. You can just see it happening. Oh, don't, Steve. Why are you doing this to us?
Sorry, everybody. If you were hoping for an early night, you're not getting it when it comes to this one. But one thing's for sure. For me, as I said there, hopefully I've painted a pretty picture there for you of how I think it's going to go down. I think that this is... I reckon that these two... MJF surprises people anyway. He's much better in the ring than he's given credit for. Bryan Danielson is one of the best in the world. I think these two together will create magic, and they'll create a good story. I don't think this is going to be a boring 60-minute match where there's like 1 or 2 falls. I think we're going to have a good number of them. And I think if you can do that, it makes the pacing of the match go really quickly. And it can kind of get that Royal Rumble style feeling where something can happen at any moment and you kind of get glued to the screen.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that the next rivalry that we go into with MJF, that we get him on, we'll get wrestling more, because how often has he wrestled? I can't even remember the last match he had. That's what I mean. I think it's a case of he's your world champion, and he's turned into Roman Reigns, and he's just doing pay-per-view appearances, and you don't have a lot of pay-per-views on for AEW. So I'm just hoping that the next time around he just wrestles at least once every 2 weeks or something, man, because it's a shame that we do not see more of him in the ring as it is.
It is a shame. Obviously, he is the attraction, but then being the attraction, does that work also being the champion? We mentioned with other people from other promotions previously of they should be an attraction to the show. They draw you in. How are you finding MJF's run so far as world champion before we go to the chat?
Luckily enough, his promo work is fantastic. So no matter what, if he's on the show, if he's on the card, even if he's not wrestling, you're still going to be entertained in some way or another. He still knows how to cut a promo. He still knows how to cut deep with a promo. He still knows how to shock you. You still know that watching something that you're going to see something magical, and you may even expect something unnecessary that you wouldn't even heard of. Like you said before we started talking about the the whole concussion stuff and like all that stuff. You would never have expected them to use it in a promo. So it's always fun and exciting to see what he's going to say. I mean, even when he was doing the CM Punk stuff, like his promo work does not slack at any point. It is consistently high quality stuff. So there's always that to go on. But at the end of the day, he is a wrestler, and I want to see the guy wrestle.
Me too. I want to see the guy wrestle. I won't lie to you, but I will say MJF is one of the main reasons I want to tune into AEW to go and see each every week. I want to know what he's going to say next. I want to know what he's going to do next. And I think to have that, I mean, he can't be doing a bad job as world champion so far. I know the ratings have dropped a little bit, but I do think overall, I have enjoyed this rivalry. I've enjoyed the build. I think it's been good. It's been exciting. And I'm excited to see what they're going to bring for us here. Because like I say, it's a blank canvas at this moment. But I think with 60 minutes, they can make some magic when it comes into this Ironman match. Too Sweet Carl says, it looks like there's been enough. Let's do it in the right voice there. See the Mark Henry voice there. It looks like there's been enough talk. It's time for the main events. Thank you very much for that there. And obviously, Steve, you did a lot better than me earlier on there, but I did my best with the impression. C Nation says, I think everyone has MJF retaining the AEW World Championship. We do, but think of the story. It's all about the story. That's what it's about here on this one. If they do the story right, this can be an absolute gem of a match, and we'll be talking about it for the right reasons rather than saying it being predictable.
As much as I would love to see it, it's just unfortunately one of them things where it's exactly like Roman Reigns at the minute. You just don't see him losing, and MJF is this is what his second or third defense as a champion. No way the guy's losing, unfortunately, man. I'm gonna have to say I'm gonna say MJF retains. It's not going to be the one for Bryan Danielson this time, unfortunately.
No, and we mentioned earlier on about how big it is to beat Chris Jericho. What it did for Ricky Starks. Bryan Danielson is a big name for MJF to have that on a notch on that belt there, the Triple B of one of his title defenses. That can only solidify him as champion going into the summer.
The thing is as well is if they are going to do if they're going to do a rivalry for MJF next as well, I'd like them to see them bring Punk back just to see MJF get the win over Punk, especially as world champion, because I think that's another way to solidify that championship run as well.
Yeah, it would definitely be a big one. I'd like to see it if they could ever do that, but time will tell on CM Punk. Will he? Won't he? Will he be back this Sunday? It'd be interesting to know what people think of that in the chat before we wrap things up. But C Nation says MJF is a copy and pasting the same storyline over and over. He always gives money to people to do his dirty work. That will get very old eventually. There's no argument with that comment. He does that every single time. But you know what, though? He's that good on the mic. And there is enough tweaks in the storylines each and every time that we know this is what he's going to do each and every time. But he makes it work because that's what MJF does.
Yeah, but that's why I said I would like to see him wrestle a bit more, just because even if it's not necessarily in a case of just like working towards his next rivalry, just essentially a case of just being the champion and just, I don't know, just completely destroying some of the lower card guys, man. Just absolutely show why he's the champion of AEW. But that's what I mean. We said, like C Nation Dog said, it's very copy paste repeat, and it's just like I'm on the same wavelength at the minute. I want to see him do something else rather than just pay someone else to do his dirty work.
Absolutely. No, I can understand that, and I do agree. It's never a bad thing to switch things up, and he says that could get very old eventually. And do you know what? It could very well do so. Fans, we do turn eventually on a lot of the things that we do see. Last comment before we wrap things up then from Eric says, could we see Ruby getting the title eventually? I don't say why not. Never say never. I mean, it's a long time there we've got to run with there. Would Ruby ever win the title in AEW? I said the chances are that it's quite likely.
Yeah, the point is, it's just a case of whether she takes that TBS title for Jade Cargill or something. She needs to be justified because she didn't get a lot of justification in WWE. She's come to AEW and still not had that justification, and I think she's overdue it at this point.
I do think she's overdue a title run at some stage. Obviously, we've not predicted her to win it here on this particular evening. But hey, this story I think has got lots of twists and turns in it. And like I say, I think that this is a second phase in a 3-phase story that we've got going to be starting this Sunday. So I'm intrigued to see where the direction is going to go with that. And you never know, Ruby might have a Ruby of a championship on her shoulder come the end of the night. But that's pretty much it. That's everything we've got to discuss for the AEW Revolution match card and predictions 2023. If you've enjoyed this video, then please hit the like button. It really does help these videos. It helps on YouTube as well, with these algorithms, the boring stuff, but it helps the channel grow. And obviously without you all, this channel is nothing. So I do appreciate everyone that does support it. If you can share the video with a friend as well, subscribe if you're new here watching. If you're watching on delay also, then I say thank you for taking the time out to watch this prediction show. But I also need to give another big thank you to the man sitting next to me, NXSTEVE, always dedicated, always comes for the cause, and always willing to spend long live streams talking about professional wrestling with me. I thank you for taking the time out once again to discuss AEW Revolution.
And as always, Steve, it's always a pleasure. It's nice to actually have a change up and talk about AEW for once, because most of the time it is WWE. So it is nice to give the little guys a shout for once in a while.
Absolutely. Do you know what? There needs some more AEW content on the channel. It's something that I have been a bit guilty of, but we are in WrestleMania season, so that's kind of perhaps why it is that way. But who knows? If AEW hit a home run on this show, maybe just might find a bit more AEW content coming to the channel. But there was an AEW video released last week, how I would book MJF throughout 2023. So if you've not seen it, make sure to go and check that video out now. But thank you all for watching. Have yourselves a great day. Enjoy AEW Revolution. Thank you all. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Enjoy the show, and if time permits, try and get a review for you as well. All the best.